there's not really a equality in the women's and men's sports for rugby in the US and a lot of the other sports you think of soccer and things like that. But
Mhm.
also rugby's not that big in the US. And right now it's like one of the biggest growing sports in the US, but it's still not anywhere close to how big I think and a lot of people think that the sport can be in the US. And we're not getting the exposure that we need, specifically the women's sports, because if you think about it, we have a San Diego men's team in the US, and they're on TV more than the USA men's or women's team is on television. And that's, with our generation, one of the easiest ways to be aware of something that's new in the US, either social media or TV. And you have like some of the higher profile athletes in rugby who are able to expose people who don't know about the sport to rugby, but a lot of the players who are on the US rugby team, men's and women's, don't have that big of a profile on social media to be able to um, show off what they're doing and show what rugby is because they're not reaching enough people. And then we also don't have that platform on television. So it makes it very hard for us to be able to grow the sport without being able to get into those outlets that are the biggest ways of reaching the public. And if we can't reach the public, we can't get people out to the games and things like that.
Right. What sort of attendance do you get at the national level, at the national game, Naya? What sort of support do you get? I mean, do you fill any of the stands? What sort of support is there?
So it's different based on if we're playing at the same tournament as the men or in a separate tournament. So if we're playing in a separate tournament, maybe 1,000. And then if we go and play with the men in Sydney or Dubai, like you get thousands and thousands of people in the stands. But the crazy thing is you notice the difference. So um, I know I'm not going to be nervous on the first day because that's the day that the men don't play with us. So I automatically know, oh, there's going to be way less people in the stands. I won't feel as much pressure. But then on that second and that third day, the stadium is going to be packed because the men are there. So that's good exposure for the women.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're not able to play at those men's tournaments, we don't get that same view from the public eye. We don't get those numbers.
And that is pretty much the same here, is it? I mean, you don't get that. You don't get those attendance figures here at a
Yeah,
domestic game.
yeah.
So, what do you think needs to be done then by the governing bodies, by USA Rugby? I know they have a pretty good profile on social media, but what do
hmm
you feel needs to be done more to promote the women's game in the US?
So the easiest, like not easiest, but the first thing that comes to my mind is just being able to get us on television. Because if you think of the World Cup that was shown on television, I think it was shown on television, but you still had to pay to be able to watch it, like a subscription, one of those type of channels. So it's just like so many barriers stopping you from getting to that full potential that you want to get to and that you're able to get to, but it's hard because you have all these barriers stopping you. So it's like, okay, we put you on TV, but we're going to make people pay for a sport that they don't know about. So I think like breaking that barrier of getting us on a television that you don't have to pay for and that you can just turn it on and it's there. Like I had a lot of people who I didn't know from my other jobs and just the public eye and reaching out on social media that, hey, I seen you on TV, and like how excited they were and how they were just like, we didn't know this is what you were doing. We didn't know this was what rugby is. And just that one appearance in that one um, event on TV where even though they had to pay for it, it still reached out to people. Just imagine how many people would have seen it and become a fan of the sport if it was free to watch on TV. That you didn't have to get a subscription to be able to learn a new sport or see a new sport or become a fan of a sport that you didn't know about, especially a women's sport that's the same as men's. You don't really get that in the US. So I think that would be a start. And then just continuing the social media outreach. So that's one thing that I'm working on, is trying to build my brand so that I can build the rugby brand. And just trying to look into different outlets. So another thing that I've been working on is trying to get into my community. Because, yeah, we live in Chula Vista and the Olympic training center is right there, but a lot of the people who live in that community don't know that rugby is a sport there. So being able to go do community service acts to reach out to people who may not know about the sport, which is something that me and Chris Thomas did a week ago, and we ended up
Oh, that.
showing so many people like what rugby was and what a rugby athlete could look like, and that we come from different places and different cultures and things like that. So that was a cool experience, just trying to get outreach in any way possible.
And what kind of response did you get to that? I saw on your social media how you were,
Hmm.
you were engaging with the local community in that way, which was a great
Yeah,
initiative and a great idea, Naya, to be
yeah.
visible, right? What kind of response did you get? Were people like, you play what? I mean, were they in any way educated about the sport, or were they interested in finding out more? And do you think they will now, as a result of your integration then into the community, to be seen to be a part of the community, right, and
Hmm.
engaging them, do you think they will now support the game and come to games?
Yeah, so it's funny that a lot of the times you'll say, "Oh, I play rugby," and they're like, "Oh, yeah, I know." And then you ask them, "What is it?" And they're describing uh, lacrosse or field hockey, and you're like, "No, that's the total opposite of what rugby is." So then, like, just in that one experience that we had, um, some of them did know what it was, but they didn't really believe that we played. They didn't know
Mm-hmm.
that we had a U.S. team. They kept on saying, "Oh, what high school do you play for? What college do you play for?" And we're like, "Oh, yeah, we play for the national team." And and they don't know that there's a national team. I didn't know there was a national team in college, and that was like 5, 6 years ago. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, as time went on throughout that event, like they started to really believe us and get excited and want to look us up. And you can tell, like in that small moment, you just seen a spark of they just learned something new. And that I definitely think that they'll start being fans because hopefully we built some type of connection and we let them know, like we'll let you know when our games are. And that type of exposure is very important because it's genuine.
Do you think there's an opportunity to get involved with maybe after school programs, or get into schools and just do a demonstration to the girls there in schools, as to what rugby is about, and maybe encourage those schools or the communities to get involved in an after school program where maybe you could do a little coaching if you had time? I'm sure it's all about a time commitment for you as well, so you have to draw the
Yeah.
line between sort of introducing the sport and then actually being involved in coaching or educating people on the sport. So what do you think those opportunities are to join all those dots up?
Um, we did maybe a year ago something of that form where we went to a school and we were able to play with them and show them what rugby was, and it didn't take but a couple hours.
Mm-hmm.
So for anybody to say, "Oh, we don't have the time," is silly. Like I used to think that, and now it's like, okay, well, I can do something once a month, and if
Mm-hmm.
you do it in that span, it's not that hard. Like you can make time for it, and I think that that would be something that would be very easy to do, and it would also be beneficial for us and the children that we're showing it to. Rugby's so fun to play even without the tackle concept of it, and the kids love it, and they love the ball, and they love learning new things, and kids are the quickest ones to pick up on it. So I think that that would be something that we could definitely do, and that it's really easy, and we have so many schools in our community. It would just have to be us reaching out and trying to secure a spot in their program to be able to do something like that. which I don't think would be hard either. I think they'd love that idea.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic way to go. And of course, the second part to that would be to involve the local media. You know, contact them, reach out to the local media wherever you're going, and tell them, you know, you're
Mhm.
going to have Team USA rugby players going to this community or going to the school or whatever. I mean, there's a great photo
Yeah.
opportunity. It's a great way for you to utilize the local media as well. Of course, you're using your own social media. And no, I'm just
Mhm.
thinking at how much individual players, and this happens in any sport really, individual athletes are promoting the sport so much through their own social media, and
Yeah.
and really without that now, you know, it just comes down to the governing body or the team, you know, the organization or the team to do all the marketing. So it really is a wonderful opportunity to utilize social media. But is there any initiative from the team themselves? That do they guide you in any way? Do they develop any any campaigns, any PR or social media campaigns to promote the sport?
On like a day-to-day basis, I would say no. A
Hmm.
lot of the community stuff or like any outreach that we do, most of the time is like one of us doing it and then the other girls or guys saying, "Hey, I want to do that too." Like that's kind of how it's been going for our team. It's like, okay, if y'all want to do something, set it up. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it's like you want us to be athletes and you want us to be everything in the sport, and it that takes away from our focus on getting you the gold medal and being able to perform at our top tier. We need other people handling those things. We need other people setting up these community events and these other forms of ways that we can reach out to these people because we're doing our part. So then you want us to do all the other parts as well. I
Hmm.
don't know. I think that's kind of silly, but at the end of the day, if that's what we have to do, obviously that's what I'm trying to do, and hopefully it'll just set a little flame and burst into a big fire so that everybody is doing it and it becomes something of like a tradition so
Yeah,
that maybe it's a little easier to set up.
and of course it benefits everyone. You know,
Yeah.
really for everyone to participate. So you know, hopefully more teams will think that way. You know, that to have these social media campaigns, and they can be such fun too, can't they? I mean, there's
Yeah.
no limit to what you can do with that, and it doesn't have
Hmm.
to be the same players. You can rotate amongst the players, and you know,
Yeah.
there's so many fun things that you can do with that. So obviously
Hmm.
TV exposure, free TV exposure, and more engagement
Yeah.
in local communities, schools to join up from the grassroots and educating all the way up to the national level. And you are that key link between the two, of course. What else do you
Hmm.
think needs to be done, Naya, to further promote rugby in the US?
Um, we probably need to start reaching out to like some of the bigger corporate people that can spread the message to more of the people who have the funds to be able to promote the sport for men's and women, and just getting people who love the sport in that higher corporate world that can
Hmm.
spread it so much. So, for example, with our team CCIG, we have a amazing guy named Phil who found the sport a year and a half ago and fell in love with it and has been able to support Life West a lot with being able to give them staff and things like that when they travel. And that's really important because it allows the athletes to do what they need to do to be able to perform. And when you perform, you automatically get that outreach for the sport that you're playing. So being able to get people like that on board with our team, I think
Hmm.
that would help with exposure a lot. And even just doing podcasts and things like this. Like there's so many outlets that you can do to reach out to people. You just have to do it. Like we talk about it, but you just got to do it.
And how many of your fellow players then on the team are as enthusiastic about the social media aspect of it? It sounds, you know, obviously social media is for all of us. It's not a generation thing at all. It's for all of us.
Yeah,
We all utilize it. It's free marketing. But how much do
yeah.
the athletes themselves, of course, you know, everybody's different. some are not less, are less inclined to use it than others, and again,
Yeah.
regardless of generation. But I'm curious to how many of your fellow team players are as enthusiastic about social media and are utilizing it to the extent that you are to promote the sport.
There's a good amount of them. Like you said, some are more quiet and don't want to be on their phones as much and things like that. But I mean, I wasn't rugby wise all about social media until this year because I just kind of took the initiative that I want to build my brand and I want to show everybody this amazing sport that I'm playing. So I don't want to act like I've been doing it for forever and everybody else has been sitting around. Like, I think they'll feed off of it. So right now they're like, "Oh my God, you're posting so much," and I know like right now it may seem annoying to them, but I think they'll understand a little further down the road, and hopefully they'll catch on to it as well. Because like you said, it's free promotion. So why not take advantage of it instead of people who are out there paying people to do it? It's free and it's easy. You know what I mean?
Yep. It's very easy, very
Yeah.
accessible, and it's a great way to engage your followers. And you've got some good followers now, and you are leading by example. So, I think if anyone's doing anything to promote the sport, you certainly are, Naya. And is there anything else that's on your mind on this topic that you want to share with us? Because it is important to the future of the sport.
hmm Um. So another thing is there's a girls rugby San Diego team in San Diego, and it's like girls from about 5 to 8. And I just kind of was introduced to them maybe a year ago, and I'm looking to definitely get involved in like small coaching with them because they won't know if I don't know the rules or not. But like that type of outreach and doing what you love for people growing up, it's very easy because you're doing what you love and you're also helping the younger generation so that hopefully they'll be able to do the same thing when they get to your stage. And
Right.
just knowing that, I think those are the people, that age group is the group to start with because they do learn so fast. And being able, if you think about it, the team like England, those girls have probably been playing since they were little.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to start that cycle, hopefully by the time they're our age, we'll be having like, instead of NFL teams, it'll be women's rugby teams in the US and the sport will just boom. So I think we need to start with the younger generation and build up from there because if you try to go to the older people, yeah, they'll love it for a little bit, but they won't be able to play for that long. Whereas if you hit the younger generation, they can
Don't
build a new
don't write us off too
reputation.
soon. Don't write us off too soon, Naya. But your point is well taken. Absolutely, it is
Yeah,
reaching out. It's that outreach programs into the community, getting young girls involved, and that's a great way to go about it. And I know you're doing so much to help promote the sport, and as well as being a
trying to,
professional
yeah.
athlete as well. So
hmm
we'll be following you. We'll continue to follow you. This series may be over. This is a 4-part series, as I said earlier,
Yeah,
and we've covered 4 different topics, but there's a lot more to talk about. This is an opportunity for you, Naya, to come and share with our audience at any time, whatever you're doing.
yeah.
So you know the door's always open for you.
Okay, thank you so much. This was a great opportunity, a first time thing. It was great.
Well, we are going to get you to do little training tips as well, because we all want to
Okay.
get fit, stay fit, the new routines and things. So maybe we can get you. Maybe one of your fellow team members would take a video of you doing some workout, some kind of routine that just very short ones, 30 seconds,
Yeah,
60 seconds, and we will post them on our social media. That's Naya's training tips. How about that?
sure.
All right.
Sounds good.
Cool. All right. Well, come back and see us anytime, won't you, Naya?
Yes, absolutely.
And good luck this week. Have fun in Vegas. Enjoy the games.
Thank you.
And yeah, we'll catch you when you're back in training. When's your next big international, by the way? When do you actually go back out there?
We go to Kitakyushu, Japan in April.
In April. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so we got
Well,
about a month of training.
well, maybe we can catch up with you around that date as well and hear how that's going
Yeah.
and when you get back.
Yeah,
Okay?
for sure. Yes.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thanks again, Naya. Take care.